For this session, it's a review class with me, and the objectives for today. First, we will review motion concepts. All about motion, mga basics ana inyong klase ni siya pagka grade 7 mainly. Unya, explore more, enrichment pa jud ana. Unya, practice sa bag-o na tong katuonon og a little bit of math. Okay, a little bit lang. Okay. So first, let's try to have a kanang review sa inyong klase sa una sa grade 7 by answering this little quiz with us. So I have a question for you. How do you know that an object is moving? Okay? May I hear from you, or comments lang siguro sa comment box, comment section. Describe motion. There are many concepts that we use to describe something that is moving. Pwede ito maingon na nausap yung lugar, nausap yung position, nausap yung distance, o nipaspas ba siya, nihinay ba siya, nilakaw, nitindog, ni ni dalaga, ni nana, nalihok. Okay. So these are the concepts that we're going to talk about in a branch of physics which is called kinematics. So kinematics is that term that studies motion. Motion itself lang jud, without considering what causes them. Without considering ang cause ba niya kay energy or force ba karon, ang motion lang atong gitan-aw. Unsa ka paspasa, asa na siyang lugara, asa na siya dapitan, ni paspas ba siya na. Simply looking at the motion. This is called kinematics. It comes from the Greek term meaning motion, and it's related to those English words nga mga cinema or movies or kinesiology. So it's kung talking about human motion. So about studying or observing motion. And then there are many types of motion. Naatay linear motion, kanang motion that occurs in a straight line, or naputay one-dimensional motion. It's a type of linear motion nga usa lang siya ka dimension, such as in the remember mo sa x and y plane, na klase mo na sa inyong math, x and y nga plane. Madungog ra ko class?
Yes, miss.
Okay, so x and y plane, right? Kay balo mo, kay nunod pa mo asa ang x ug y.
Yes, miss.
So, ang x kini niya, ang y kini.
Horizontal.
Right? Yes. So, when we say one-dimensional motion, ang motion na gi-consider kay usa lang ka dimension, such as sa tanang x lang siya nga dimension, or just y. So, for example, cars moving on the may Bisaya English anang on the road, x lang siya nga direction. Okay. Ang atong convention or atong nasabutan kay ang tanan nga horizontal ang mga motion, ato lang siyang itawag nga x in the x direction. Kung y, such as mga things nga nahulog or nisaka, ninaog, talking about the vertical component, muna atong gitawag nga sa y po nga dimension. So sa one-dimensional motion, usa lang siya atong i-consider. Mostly alin na sa x. Okay, pero parehas sa gyapon equation kung gamiton nimo sa y. Okay, so let us first look at this video to have an introduction about one-dimensional motion.
The mysteries which lie beyond the clouds have intrigued us since the dawn of mankind. Scientific advances that seemed incomprehensible to our ancestors are becoming our new reality. Innovative companies like SpaceX help make space exploration easier and more affordable. Physics is critical to their continued progress. Pressing beyond Earth's atmosphere, as well as providing a safe return, requires a clear understanding of one-dimensional kinematics, which tracks position, velocity, and acceleration as a function of time. One-dimensional kinematics can describe a particular rocket test like this one. As the rocket takes off, it accelerates upward, increasing both its vertical velocity and position. At the top of its trajectory, it hovers, briefly stationary. The rocket returns to Earth in a controlled and precise manner, landing with as little vertical velocity as possible. Every successful test brings us a little closer to understanding the universe and its great mysteries.
Okay, so mauto siya, and then we're going to explore about those concepts. Those concepts, inyo na itong naklase sa una pag grade 7. I believe so. So, Generally, you can describe the motion of an object by its position, its speed, its direction, and acceleration at a particular time. Okay, so first, let's have the first three ng mga words. So, position. In Bisaya, asa na siya dapita. So, it is the location at a particular time. So, we denote that with the symbol X. Okay. And then we're talking about later na lang yung term ng vector. Okay. So, next, distance. Distance is how far an object has traveled from its initial position. For example, ikaw, naa ka sa iyong balay. Unya, magawas ka sa iyong balay, kay mo ato ka og merkado. Unya, pag ato mo sa merkado, kay ni ato ka og asa man na part sa merkado. Ato na po kaglain, ato ba ka lang sa Dunhill. Nya, usa ka na uli sa inyong balay. Okay. So, ang imong distance nga nalakaw, i-add nimo tanan. From this distance to here to here. I-add nimo tanan. Muna ang distansya gilayon sa imong gi-travel. From your first position, which is termed as x sub o or x naught, until kung asa ka ni ending. Pwede ra sad kutob diri depende sa pag-state sa problem. Kani uli mo kasi mong balay, so nibalik ra kasi sinugdanan. Displacement, however, is related to distance, but it's completely different. So, it is how far an object is from its initial location. In mathematical terms, it is the change of x, which is equal to the final nga position to the initial position. So, ang initial na to kaning na x sub o or x naught initial. Unya, sa uban na box na initial letter F dire, ang uban wala, pwede ra jud X. Okay, so this is your final. So, ang change daw sa final minus initial. So, meaning, unsay na, lahi. Kani nga, atong unang scenario, nalakaw ka, yan, uli ka sa iyong balay. So, is there a displacement here? Nausab ba imong displacement? Wala, kay balik ka kasi mong sinugdanan. How about if, yan, adto ka sa merkado, o yan, adto na po ka sa Dunhill. So, your displacement is from your, unsa nakakalaya sa imong initial position is here. Diri ka nagsugod. Imong final kuno nga position, kay wala pa ba ka ni uli, naka diri. So, unsa na imong displacement, meaning, unsa jud ka kalaya exactly sa imong balay. So, this yun. Ang atong isolve kay kani nga distansya ha, kani. So, distance is different from displacement. Distance is just like adding all those mga gitas-on nga imong di-travel or sa object. Displacement is ang pagkaisbog sa usa ka object from its initial to its final. Okay. So, when we talk about displacement, this is a vector quantity. Vector, nakaklase mo vector sa grade 7 ninyo, vector nga word?
Yes, miss, pero nalimot na ako.
Okay.
Nag-mention si Ma'am Ana, miss. Pamilyar na. Nag-mention na si Ma'am.
You have any idea kung saan ang vector? Okay. So, there are quantities in physics nga, or quantities in general nga itong ma-describe sa mga butang. We have those two terms nga sa physical quantities. Pwede tamo gamit og mga scalar nga mga quantities ug mga vectors. Pag scalar, only mga numbers with their units such as length nga 15 meters. Or ang gilayon sa ibong gilakaw kay 10 meters. Or other terms, pwede mga grams, alin nga quantity. But when you say vectors, there is a unit plus a direction. So, it really talks about naa siya additional nga direction. For example, katong gilakaw ni mo kaniha kay example 15 meters east or 10 meters northeast. So, nagi siya gihatag nga direction. Okay? Muna siya mga vectors. So, those terms, kani si position, naa jud siya direction ug si displacement. Ang distance kay wala ra gi-add nimo ang mga numbers sa scalar quantity. vector quantities need a direction, such as this one. So, ang imong displacement kay, unsa naman? If you draw a diagram, diri si north, diri si south, diri si west, ug diri si east. So, ang imong direction kay delta x something, ug na may number niya. Ang imong direction ana kay like southeast ba karon inana. Pero dila sa ta magproblema sa direction, makaagi ra jud ta na later. Okay. So again, scalar quantities, magnitude and units. And then sa vector na siya additional nga mga direction. Okay. Na later na po dyan more properties sa vector na yung may bawaan. Ato lang sa simple. So let's try this simple distance problem. Okay, on a sunny afternoon, so I would like you to take out your notebooks with you and answer it unya for about like 2 minutes is comment ninyo sa comment box ang answer. Okay, here's a problem. On a sunny afternoon daw, there's a deer which walks 1,300 meters east to a creek for a drink. Mainom siya. Then that deer then walks 500 meters to the west to the berry patch for a dinner. Before running 300 meters to the west na pod, kay naa siya na-encounter nga loud raccoon. So what distance did the deer travel? Distance ha. Okay, solve. I'll give you 2 minutes. So when you're doing mga physics problems, it is encouraged that you really work with your hands, not just with your eyes. Okay. Kung man ni siya, skill man ni. So, dili ra pwede magtanaw. So, mas maayo jud mag-solve. Distance to. Saan man ang distance? I-add ra nimo ang kung sa kalay atanan. If you're done answering, pwede ra mo comment sa comment box. Okay, so how about you add all the numbers here. So 13 meters east. So nilakaw daw ang deer sa east. Ngunya after niya nilakaw kay niadto na po daw siya sa 500 meters nga nituyok siya, nibalik siya 500 meters sa west. Unya, nadaga na po siya og 300. How about west gihapon. Kaya nahadlok siya sa raccoon. But the question is distance naman. So, unsa na katas-atanan niyang dalagan? So, 1,300 plus 500. Yeah, plus na po 300. I-add na ni mo tanan 0, 0. 8. 6 plus 5, 11. 2,100 with the units. Don't forget. Ano sa unit na to?
Meter.
Okay, meter. So the answer is 2,100 meters here. So the deers traveled 1,300 meters plus 500 meters plus 300 meters for a total distance of 2,100 meters. Okay. Then, next problem. Okay, read and answer also. A deer walks...
Nanay, answer me.
500 meters sa
Giunsa man to, be? Giunsa man to. Kaya, ngano
500 meter.
Okay, ako lang iso.
Minus.
Okay, gano'n
Minus tanan, miss.
Okay, balik ko na to ha. Si deer daw, nilakaw siya 1,300 meters east. Okay, next na po. Sakto ba? Ay, sa'yo. Si deer kay... sa east, pagkabas niya sa east, kay nag-dinner man siya, nibalik daw siya sa west, 500 meters. Parehara mo rin sa kong isuot pang last na slide. Okay, nasunod na po, nihalok siya sa raccoon, 300 meters. So, if you look at the direction, tanan forward, ang uban, nibalik siya sa agi. So, imagine mo ni ani siya. Red. So, pag ari niya dire, nibalik siya, nibalik na po siya. So, pila na ang sobra. Asa na iyang position karon, iyang initial o final. So, what you're going to do is, you just subtract. 13,000 or 1,300, nibalik siya 500.
Iba.
Nya, nibalik na po siya.
800. Ah,
Yeah,
lagi
nibalik
na.
na po siya 300. So, that's all. Mura og parehas ra na sa 1,300 minus 800. So, ang answer is asa naman ang dakila?
500.
Okay, so dear kay 500 meters, unsa yung direction? Displacement
East.
man.
East, miss.
Yes,
Ay,
east.
west.
Sure?
West, miss, oy. West, miss.
East,
Let
miss.
me
West.
try. Let us draw a table. So, ang una kay, sa tawag gani? Cartesian plane. Ang una kay 1,300. Then sunod, nibalik na siya 500 kuno. Nya, sunod nibalik na po siya 300. Wa pa man siya nalapas dire. So, dire man yung origin dire. So, nagyapon siya sa east section. Right? Okay, so consider diri man siya nagsugod yung origin x sub o. So ang iyang position karon which is naa diri sa diring tunguda sa 500 meters. Okay, so 500 meters nga east. Let us see. Yes. So the deer's displacement was 500 meters east. Understood, ra?
Yes, miss.
Okay.
Yes, miss.
Okay. It's a matter of kung lang, unsa pa'y nahabilin. So, yung tanawon ang direction. Okay. So, next level na ta. After all those mga terms kaniha na mention mo to sa video nga sila tanan function of time. Hasta tanang quantities a function of time. In physics, the definition of time is simple. Kamo ba, unsa man ninyo para ninyo ang time? Anyone? Unsa nang time? What time? Unsa din ang concept sa time? Tanong mo mga salida, unsa din ang time? Long. So, the length or a period or ang duration sa mga butang, right? So, sometimes magamit ta og orasan, magamit ta og stopwatch, unsa pa na diha, sa unang panahon magamit ta silang sundial to tell how much time has passed. And in physics, the definition of time is simple. Time is change or the interval over which change occurs. So, ang pag-usab sa mga butang. So, it's impossible to know that time has passed unless something changes. It's a good line, right? Kanang, palitan, tanaw ka sa relo. Kung wala na isbog ang arm sa relo, pag isbog niya, meaning na isbog na ang time, right? Kita mo sa mga movies, ka na mo freeze ang mga relo, so meaning daw ni stop ang time. So, answer po siya. So, we have these bases such as a change of something. So, kung ni-grow ba karon ang plant, ni-pass ang time, or ni-move ang clock, ni-pass ang time, or ni-move ang shadow because of the sun, ni-pass ang time. So, muna ang concept sa time. So, the SI unit for the time is second. It is abbreviated as S. Okay. Everything, ang mga concept sa physical world, kay ilang gibasihan ang pag-pass sa time. Okay. So, the elapsed time o ang ni duration of time is having this symbol delta t or the change of time from your time 0 to unsa na nga time final. So delta t is equal to the final time minus the time at 0 or t sub o. Okay. In other po na mga books, pwede na ka magamit og the final time minus nga initial or I. But parehas ra gihapon ni sila kung t. Okay. Gi-assume pod nga bisag unsa nga time ang initial, not always 0. So depende sa pagkaingon. Like moingon ang problem nga starting at 9:35 AM nilarga ang usa ka car, niabot siya pag alas 10. So ang iyang initial time katong 9:35 and so on. So this is just the final time minus initial nga time. So that is the change in time. So if you have noticed kaning mga symbol nga triangle, we read this as delta. Okay, it is like a Greek nga symbol, not dili siya wala siya shade ay open ra jud siya. And then gina-associate ni siya sa meaning nga change of something. Change. Okay. So next concept, after position, distance, displacement, time, next na punta si velocity. Okay, and speed. Parehas ra ba ang speed ug ang velocity, class? Unsa kaya ni sila?
Dili, miss.
Unsa may bini og speed na po ug
Dili.
velocity para ninyo?
Feel ko, miss, ang velocity kay vector then ang speed kay dili. Moras.
Okay, unsa may naa sa speed? Unsa man ang speed? Tan-aw mo mga Fast and the Furious, mga na games, Need for
Basta na
Speed,
siya distance of
Unya?
time.
Okay, so we will see. Let's go. So speed. You can calculate the speed of an object by dividing the distance covered by time. Unsa kalaya yang na-cover sa given na time. So that means unsa ka paspasa ang usa ka butang. Unsa ka paspasa din na cover ang gilayon. Okay, so before the time of Galileo, people described moving things simply as slow or fast. Such descriptions were vague, so Galileo is credited as being the first to measure speed by considering the distance covered and the time it takes. Okay, so speed is how fast an object is moving relative to time. Okay, so muna nga speed is ang gilayon divided by unsa siya ka dugayan niya ni agi ana nga panahon na. Okay, ana lang. So most students kay maningning basta makakita og S is equal to D over T. Nana, unsa man na sila? So mas maayo if makibalo mo sa meaning. So ang speed is unsa siya kapaspasa? No, ang iyang gilayon divided by sa time nga ni take para makalakaw siya ginana. So, na buhabuta nga paspas, ma-accomplish na uban nga dugay for a period of time. Okay, that is speed. So, any combination of units for distance and time are useful and convenient, are legitimate for describing speed. So, if you see numbers together with units such as miles per hour, kilometers per hour, centimeters per day, unsa man ni centimeters per day? Maybe growth sa imong nails? Maybe.
Tanong?
Or tanong. Oh, pwede. Okay, or light years per century. So, maybe ang pagka-travel sa usa ka space satellite. Nana. So, basta distance per time, makita mo na mga units, mo na siya speed na mga quantities. Okay, it's very important for you to distinguish right away unsa na siya nga quantity. Pag kita mo 5 grams, unsa man nga quantity? 5 grams. Kana siya. Mas. Gibugaton sa usa ka butang. Pagka makita mo og 5 seconds, unsa man nga quantity?
Time.
Time, very good. Pag makita mo og 5 meters per second, unsa man nga quantity?
Speed.
Okay, so sometimes the units help us easily to pagtan-aw nimo sa units kay para kay boday ko sa imong buhaton. Okay. So a cheetah is the fastest land animal over distances which less than 500 meters kuno and can achieve a peak speed of 100 kilometers per hour ang iyang madalagan. So paspas kay no. Maybe it's because of the ang forma siyang lawas gani. Ana. Okay, so we primarily use the units meters per second for speed. This is the SI unit because for time, ang SI is second, yeah, for the distance it's meter, in meters. So, in most problems, if you're given centimeters, kung centimeters all throughout, okay ra. Pero pag makita mo og lain ng mga units, mas maayo if imo silang i-convert na og meters og mga speed, og mga seconds. So if a cheetah covers 50 meters in a time of 2 seconds, ang iyang speed kay 25. Ano man? Kay ang 50 meters divide ra og 2 seconds. Okay, you can have this answer 50 per 2 seconds. That's acceptable. But to simplify, because numbers can be divided, 50 divided by 2, 25 meters per second. You can write meters per second in a straight line sa imong notebook, or you can have 25 meters per second like this. It's just still a fraction form, parehas ra. You will find this arrangement easy later if you will have mga cancellation of units or conversion. Okay, speed. Let us look at some mga relative mga speeds. A bowling ball, kung kita lang mo siguro mga games or videos, that's around 6 meters per second. Ang tao makusog kayo mudagan daw at around 11 meters per second. Okay, kung ang rabbit mudalagan, that's around 17 meters per second. Tsunami, 22 meters per second. Sprinting cheetah, 28 meters per second. Batted softball, 33 meters per second. Batted baseball, 44 meters per second. So, another idea sa pagkadako sa mga numbers, no? Kung maglakaw siguro taon sa man atong gipaspason ani. Maglakaw ka, labi na ka na palatok mode lang ta, no? Maglakaw lang ta. Sa usa ka meter siguro, mga 2 seconds. Nana. Or dili po. Paspas ra po siguro or hinay. Okay. Anyways, we also have terms like instantaneous speed. Unsa ang speed nimo at that instant? So, for example, a car. A car does not always move at the same speed. Kasakay mo og sakyanan or jeep or bus. Usahay mong hinay, usahay mong paspas, usahay mong hunong, kanang bus kay magkuha og pasahero, larga na po. So, you can tell the speed of a car at any instant by looking at the car's speedometer. So, the speed at any instant, for example, unsa na speed niya karong panahona? Muna instantaneous speed na concept. In cars, we look at the speedometer. Kakita na mo inani nga part sa sakyanan siguro. So,
Yes, miss.
speedometer. Okay, naiuban nga mo function, naiuban nga dili sad mo function. So if magamit mo app na pud na sa mga phone, like magamit mo Waze, naman speedometer sa Waze sa cellphone kanang para navigate na mga app. Okay. And also in math, we can solve this, but it's beyond us na kay murag higher maths na ning mag-solve tag instantaneous speed. We will usually use this concept of average nga speed. Unsa lang ang iyang average nga speed throughout the whole trip. So in a trip by car, the car will certainly not travel at the same speed during the trip. So the driver cares about the average speed for the trip as a whole. The average speed is this total distance covered divided by time. So, tanan nga distance divided by time. Look at, ang speed nimo, distance, ayan kuhan. Speed is equal to distance. Kung sa ito ng distance, katurang gitasod sa tanan yang na-travel divided by time. So, distance divided by time. Average speed is like this. Total distance over tanan nga time magi-cover. For example, 240 kilometers niya na take to niya 4 hours with an average muna dayon nga ang average niya nga speed is 60. Ang gibuhat is gi-divide ra niya 240 divided by 4. Okay, next. So, average speed is often quite different from the instantaneous speed. Okay, whether we talk about average speed or instantaneous speed, we're still talking about the rates at which distance is traveled. So, rate according to time. Okay, so if we know unsa na ang average speed and travel time, pwede sad makakita na ta sad, pwede sad may bawon na to ang distance. So katong sa una siguro nagamit mo og katong magic triangle na gitawag sa uban na teachers ang S is equal to palitan, speed is equal to distance over time nya. Isulat og inani nga triangle nakatry mo ani. S is equal to D over T inana. Okay, so
Yes, miss.
if daw if need nimo ang S, so ang D divide na mo T. Nya, if need nimo ang D, so to have the distance covered, multiply lang nimo ang average speed o distance time. So how do we write that? Distance covered. In some books, nagsymbol siya og D. In others, nagamit siya og X bakaron or change in x or mga y bakaron kung pahulog. The distance is equal to speed spelling times the time. Example, average speed nimo 80 kilometers per hour on a 4-hour trip. If 80 kilometers ang imong speed, so sa bawat hour muna imong na kuan. So 80 plus 80 plus 80 plus 80 or 80 times 4 muna 320. So multiply ra. How about this? If a cheetah can maintain a constant speed of 25 meters per second, it will cover 25 meters every second. Kaya mo daw na yung speed. 25 iyang makover sa kada second. So, unsa daw kalaya iyang ma-travel sa 10 seconds lang? Anyone? Unsa man na to pag-answer? Ang process lang.
Multiply
Times,
means
Miss.
Yes? Multiply. You can do that.
multiply ang 25 of 10.
Yes. So, ang ingon daw is your speed, this is your speed, and your time is this. So, imong formula S is equal to D over T. So, to find D is equal to S times T. So, speed mo 25 meters per second times ang time na to nga 10 seconds. Kani seconds. Let me erase first para simple lang. Okay, so 25 times 10, that is, what's my answer? 250? Is it correct? Unya,
Yes, miss.
kuan. Ang units ay kalimot. So, look at how we can easily cancel here and here. Okay, the numerator man plus divided by sa denominator nga S. So, cancel. Habilin ang M. So, M. Here. So, 250 meters. Or, if mo lang imagine nun, 25 man daw siya kada second. So, 25, yeah, next po second, 25 na po. So, plus 25. So, parehas sa gyapon kapulo. So, i-add mo, maugya po yung answer, 250. So, 250 meters. Sa 1 minute, i-times mo siya 60 seconds, 1,500. So, ay kalimot nga minute naman na siya niya. Ang kontra na to is seconds. So, dapat si minute, i-convert sa nimo seconds. Because the cancellation of units will work if you have the same na units. Okay, easy. Di lang taan na part. Okay, ari na ta sa, how about velocity? Again, how do you calculate speed? Concept check.
Distance over time,
Distance
miss.
over time.
Okay, very good. Next, velocity. So, speed is the description of how fast an object moves. Karon, velocity is how fast it moves and in what direction it moves. So, it is a vector quantity. So, S, speed, scalar. V, velocity, vector. Naa siya direction. So, in physics, velocity is speed in a given direction. So, nidagan ka padulong sa merkado. Iwang direction, padulong sa merkado. Padulong sa downhill. Na siya direction. Wala ra ni ingon nga nidagan siya 5 meters per second. Asa man padulong? Ana. So, mas kumpleto kung naay direction. So, when we say a car travels at 60 kilometers per hour, we are specifying its speed. But when we say a car moves at 60 kilometers per hour to the north, we're more specific now because we're telling its velocity. So, kung imagine mo, nitanga dahil siya dito padung sa north. So, ani ang velocity? Naa siya direction. Okay, so a quantity such as velocity that specifies direction as well as the magnitude or atong number. Magnitude means ang number lang like 5 and the unit 5 meters per second. Ana. Basta na direction, muna vector quantity. So, speed is a scalar. Velocity, like force, is a vector quantity. But natay terms like constant velocity and other terms later. When we say constant velocity, all throughout, parehas ra. Kung ang imong gisugdan kay 5 meters per second, the whole trip nimo 5 meters per second ra pod. And the same pa jud ang imong direction. Okay, so your speed is the same, your direction is the same. So something with a constant speed doesn't speed up or slow down. Parehas ra jud tanan. Unsay imong gisugod mo ra sa tumoy. Constant velocity means both your speed and direction. Ang constant mao ra jud. So constant direction is a straight line. So constant velocity means motion in a straight line at a constant speed. So wala siya niliko, ni tanga kay kung usab na yung direction meaning nausab na yung velocity. Okay, bahalag yung speed the same ra. Guys, mas sa concept class sa kalahian.
Yes, miss.
Okay?
Yes, miss.
Okay. So next, pero kung constant velocity, na pala changing velocity. If ang speed or ang direction or both ang nag-usab-usab, that means dili na constant imong velocity. Changing na. For example, naglakaw ka 5 meters per second. Mas pasagod din mo, ay like, di lang ito palabihan. Kuan lang ka, imo daw malakaw kay kuan. Let me erase. Maybe butang lang 2 meters per second. Kaya ba? Madara siguro. Medyo padung na ka mudagan. Okay. Padung na ka mudalagan ani. Okay, so 2 meters per second daw yung ipaspason. Unya, muna imong initial velocity or V sub O. Unya, pag ending nimo or your V final or V lang jud, 2 lang gihapon, 2 meters per second. So, you're walking that in a straight line. 2 diri, 2 po diri paghuman. So, but mausab na siya kung ni 2 ka diri, unya niliko ka gamay. Pero 2 gihapon. Same lang kag speed. So, example, maayo man daw kay ka mulakaw, maka-imagine jud ka nga 2 jud ni always na kung lakaw. So, pero nausab ay mong direction, mo nang change na imong velocity. So, these are the conditions. A body may move at a constant speed along a curved path pwede, but it does not move with constant velocity. Kung example, nagtuyo ka, kung mudalagan ka, ang imong direction na nakay always man nagausab. Patubang ka diri, hantod atubang na po ka dito, hantod atubang na po ka hantod, maka-turn kag circle. Ana man ang imong direction sa velocity. So, muna ingon sila kung curve daw, naglahi na imong velocity. Okay, just like this car. At every instant, nagatubang siya diri. Imagine ninyo, nagdagan siya. Mudyo niya giatubang. Hantod nagkaliko siya. Okay. Question. Can anyone read?
The speedometer of a car moving northward reads 60 kilometers per hour. It passes another car that travels southward at 60 kilometers per hour. Do both cars have the same speed? Do they have the same velocity?
Okay. Parehas ba silang speed? Parehas silang class?
Yes, miss.
Yes. So by numbers,
Yes,
parehas
miss.
silang velocity. Yes. But do they have the same velocity?
No.
No, miss.
No.
No. Why?
Because of the direction.
Lain lang sila direction.
Yes, you're right. So let's select direction. Lahi na same velocity. Okay, both have the same speed but lahi ang velocity opposite because opposite ang direction. Okay, mo to siyang difference sa velocity and speed. Now, let's have a sample problem. Katong si deer o si raccoon kaniha. Okay, remember mo? So, a deer, so try to take out your pen and paper gihapon and try to solve. A deer walks 1,300 meters east. Unya, mo gihapon, then na-walk siya og the deer then walked 500 meters west. Is, walk na po siya 500 meters. Tapos ulit na itong line. Unya, ni daga na po siya 300 meters west. Okay. Kaya na ay raccoon nga ni kat-kat sa kahoy. Okay, what is the deer's average speed? If the entire trip took 600 seconds lang or 10 minutes. So, gamit mo lang sa meters per second. What is the average speed?
5. 2.5. 3.5.
Okay. You may type your answers and then I will wait. By the way, how to answer? So pag-answer. Ang buhaton is
I-plus ang kuan miss, ang ganang direction, ang distance miss.
first kay tan-aw na to, unsay gipangita ang average speed. Unsay naa? Naatay masolve nga distance. Right? Makasolve tag distance. Hinumdum mo sa tong distance kaniha sa unang problem, 2,100.
Yes, 2,000.
Unya, naatay time, right? Ang time, kanita na nahitabo
Yes,
ni 600
600.
seconds. So, identify first
Second.
unsay naa. Unya, imong formula kay speed is equal to distance divided by
Total distance over time.
yes, total distance. So, ibutang sa calcu, pwede na jud. So, distance 2,100 divided by 600 is equal to
3.5.
3.5.
okay, 3.5. Unsay unit? Butangan din na unit, ha? Meters niya.
Meters
Here
per
per
Second
second.
meters
ms
per second. Ana
over
lang.
s.
Okay. Okay, meters per second. So, mo daw ni iyang average speed. Total distance divided by unsa nakadugayan na hitabo. So, sakto ra atong answer. Okay, sakto ra. How about average velocity? So, to calculate the vector quantity of average velocity, you divide the vector quantity displacement by time. So, displacement yun ang gamiton. Okay, lahi sa speed ha. Kay distance mo to kanina. Displacement over time. So, kato si deer. Ka-remember mo sa yung displacement kanina? Nilakaw siya 30,
500.
nibalik na po siya. So, katong pag-solve na to sa displacement, sa wala na kainumdum, ang gibuhat is ang 13, nibalik siya, so meaning minus kay nibalik. Yung nibalik na po siya another 300, ang nasubra na lang kay, ilan na to?
500
Oh,
meters.
500 meters. So, muna itong displacement. Kung sa pang numbers na naato to diri, natay time. Time, which is 600 seconds. So, again, muna ang formula. Velocity, average velocity. Ang average velocity has this symbol of... average velocity has the symbol of sa naa siya V, then naa siya murag bar sa ibabaw. Average na siya ang meaning. So, delta x or change of x over t. Your change of x is all 500 now because we solved it a while ago. Divided by 600. So, ang answer is
0.83.
so, make sure na inyong gisolve diya sa inyong mga balay para mas mas makarelate. So, 0.8, daghan mang 3, so 83 lang ta. 0.83 what? 83, yung velocity kay 0.83
Is miss.
meters per second to the
Kanya is
east.
East.
Okay. Imagine niyo padung diri ni balik. So, pa west niya ni balik sa east. So, na-jud na siya pakapin nga unit. Okay, so the answer is this one. So, 0.83 meters per second is. Okay, so notice how lahitag answer, right? Sa average speed o sa average velocity. The difference is that ang distance ug speed kay para sa scalar nga ang solution. Then displacement and velocity are vectors. Nag-involve siya og kuan direction unya. Diretso jud unsay kalahian sa initial position ug sa final. So mo to siya. Okay. Another sample problem. Truck the hungry squirrel travels 4 meters east. So, i-draw ni sa yung notebook ha. 4 meters east. Asa man ang east? Ang balik ta ha. North,
Padong
south,
right.
west, ug east. Padulong dere. So, let me balik ko na ko. So, Padung dinhi. Oh, sakto ba? East? Oh, yes. So, 4 meters ni siya iyang gilakaw. Unya, ingon na po sunod, 3 meters north in search of an acorn. So, asa man north? Asa man ta punta sunod?
Ibabaw.
Okay, so sumpay lang nimo. Mutanga daw siya og 3 meters sa north. The question is, find the distance traveled and find the displacement. Then find the average speed and find the average velocity na to. Okay, first, find sa ta the distance. Kung saan pag-solve ang distance? Anyone?
Add ang
Okay, so ang gilayon sa na
gilayon.
travel. Okay, 4 plus 4 meters plus 3 meters equals
7
7.
meters.
Okay, ana ra ang distance. How about displacement?
0.05 meters per second is
How did you answer that? Leg, yan sa pag-answer. Nakaagi na mo sa math ninyo
1
og
minus
kuan kanang ginatawag nga hypotenuse or ang shortcut
yes,
from
yes.
this to this. Okay, ang
Hypo
the shortest way from this to this is what you call the hypotenuse. And to solve that, your hypotenuse is equal to the square root of this length here. Let's call this length A and length B. So, A squared plus B squared. So, ang saon? Ang A squared kay 4
4
squared plus
square
3
3
squared.
squared
So, butang sa calcu, pwede ra po or pwede ra po dili. So, 4 squared is, what is it? 4 times 4, 16 plus
16
3,
plus 9
9. Yeah. Square root of, what's this? 16 plus
25 5
25. So, ang answer sa square root of 25 is 5. So, ang ato dayong displacement, ang gilayon from initial to final jud, ana lang, kasimple. So, 5. 5 meters. So, lahi jud di ay. Okay, lahi jud di ay. Okay, so inani yung gamiton pag solve basta tanga na siya or lahi na siya direction like dili na straight ni tanga or ninaog na ba. So in any na way. So please take note of this method. Okay?
Miss, excuse me, miss.
Yes.
What if dili mo tanga, miss?
Munaog. Asa man? If mo hiwi like northeast,
Oo.
southwest, naana po laing mga paagi ana. And then pero dili na nako i-appeal kay murag madugay jud mag-solve ana. Okay.
Sige,
Pero
miss.
easy ra
Thank
gyapon
you.
ma-solve ra gyapon na. Okay, muna tong distance of displacement. Maka-solve na ba ta sa iyahang average speed or average velocity?
Yes, miss.
Yes, miss.
Okay, so to solve for the average nga speed, you're just going to ang imong speed.
Total distance.
Yes, the total distance of 7 meters divided by unsa man siya kadugaya? 20.
20.
Yes, so 7 divided by 20 butang mo sa
0.35
calcu 0.
meters per second.
Okay, very good. 0.35 niya. Don't forget the units per second. Kaning meters, kaning displacement, kay butangan din na itong unit nga north. Oh, direction nga north. Kani tanga man siya, oh, northeast. Yan man siya. Understood, ra? Okay. How about velocity? Next, ang velocity kasi buhaton. Ang imong total madung
Displacement.
Okay,
Displacement.
displacement. So displacement is pila man? 5 meters.
5
5 divided by
20.
20 gyapon ang time. So seconds or 1 gyapon. And then 5 divided by 20,
0.25
0.25
0.25
meters per second
north.
northeast. Gyapon. Okay, sakto ba itong mga answers? Dara ang mga answers. Okay, so sakto ra jud. Okay, so ana lang siya. So you can take a screenshot of this part here and then try to answer sa inyo ha. So, dili lang ko magpa-assignment or anything. Kamo lang answer sa inyo. So, please take a screenshot of this one and then try to solve sa inyo.
Karon, miss?
Para sa inyo, practice pa sa inyo. Like, you can practice
Ah.
kung saan pag-solve. So, just take a screenshot. Okay? To answer this part. Unya. Maghatag lang ako answer niya later. Okay na? Or I will just
Yes,
give this PowerPoint with kuha na lang later. Okay. Continue ta. Mo gihapon ni nga concept. So, sumpay na po ta. So, in those nga mga past na to nga na-discuss, na siya yung concept of like which is up, down, which is the x or y. So, in physics, we call this mga coordinate systems na atay x and y coordinates. Naapo na siya, daghan pa jud like sa uban kay mautog z, but dili sa mabutiha. Kay kapoy kay siya imagine. Okay. It is like looking at a flat plain nga paper na ang patindog kay y, ang pahigda kay x. So it's usually convenient to consider motion upward to the right is as positive and downward kay negative. Or padulong dire positive, padulong dito sa pikas kay negative. Okay, right. Okay, concept check. How is velocity different from speed? Nga niusab ang acceleration sa usa ka object. Acceleration is a vector concept. That means it also involves direction. Okay, let's see. You can calculate the acceleration of an object by dividing the change in velocity by time. So acceleration means unsa ang pagkausab sa velocity sa aning na given na time. So, kung iyang speed ba karon kay 5 meters per second, ang usa ka sakyanan, anya or toy car siguro niya. Ipaspas siya, pag abot diri sa diring tunguda kay nahimo na siyang 10 meters per second niya. Kana tanan nga event kay nahitabo ra na within 5 seconds. So, unsa ang change sa iyang velocity over a period of time. So, at a function or a rate of time gihapon. Okay, so we can change the state of the motion of an object by number 1, changing its speed, yung number and unit, or the magnitude. Next, its direction or both. So, tulo ang condition ha. Kung mausab yung speed, kung mausab yung direction, or ang duha mausab. Kung ang iyang speed kay letter A, iyang speed kay 5 meters per second sa initial VO. Unya, 5 meters, nahimo siyang 8 meters per second sa final. So, nausab, ni-accelerate siya, ni-paspas. Letter B, 5 meters per second, V sub O, 5 meters per second sa final. Pero, kuan siya, ni liko ba siya karon or ni change ang direction. So, acceleration gyapon ang tawag ana. Okay? Or both, mag-usap. Okay. This is the formula of acceleration. The change of velocity over interval. So, velocity gani, kato na dyan na nag-involve og direction, nag-involve og displacement. Okay. In physics, the term acceleration applies to decreases as well as increases in speed. So the brakes of a car can produce a large retarding acceleration. So that is, it can produce a large decrease per second in the speed because it is built that way for navigating purposes, no? Para kung gusto ka mo brake, maka-brake ra jud at the shortest time nga possible nga safe food. Kay di man sad maayo mo brake og kalit kay mga umod sa ta, di ba? Okay, this is often called deceleration, but napay uban lain po na term gitawag. Okay. A car is accelerating whenever there is a change in its state of motion. So, ni kuan ba imong ni drive, ni gamit ba siya sa gas pedal, ni brake ba siya, or ni ang steering wheel, iya bagi paliko. So, lahi-lahi ang mahitabo. Ni accelerate gihapon na siya. Okay, so it can either have a break or ikuan ba siya, niagi ba siya curve path, naliko ba siya, nana. So, change in direction also applies to acceleration. So, it is important to distinguish between speed and velocity like we discussed kaniha. And acceleration is defined this rate of change of velocity jud, dili ang speed. Okay, velocity ang priority sa acceleration. So, vector pod siya. Okay. So, pwede siya mo speed up or mo slow down. For example, yung acceleration kay against sa yung velocity. So, nihinay kay kuan sila yung ipugngan. For example, ni brake. Okay. Or, change in direction. Nahulog man ni siya kay na change in direction. Okay. Na siya. So, it can also be changes in speed and so on. So, dito na ako ni siya i-detail. Muna gihapon ang concept nga change in speed over time. No. So, acceleration is the change in velocity or speed. So, sometimes it is interchangeable lang. Basta you know nga ang imong hang gigamit is katong concept nga displacement. Okay? Changing in speed without changing direction from 0 to 10 kilometers, for example, at rest, and ipaspas siya over 1 second, inani ang pag-solve. 10 kilometers per hour divided by second. So, sometimes mag-inani sa diyang unit, pero dili ni siya proper na form. Kaya dapat i-list down sa ninyo mo siyang second. Okay. On how to read that, it is read as 10 kilometers per hour second. So, per hour second or per meter second squared basta uban. Okay. The unit for time appears twice sa ubos. Diba? Kani man ni siya ang unit sa imong velocity niya. Ang ubos kay ang another na po niya time. Interval of time. Okay. Let's now try. Anyone who can read? Yes, go ahead.
Me, miss.
Okay.
Suppose a car moving in a straight line steadily increases its speed each second, first from 35 to 40 kilometers per hour, then from 40 to 45 kilometers per hour, then from 45 to 50 kilometers per hour. What is its acceleration?
Okay, so ang nitabo daw kay kada second ni siya nausab. So 35. At the next 1 second. Sa next second, nahimo siyang 40. Sa next na second, ang 40 nahimo na kong 45. Ang 45 sa next na nagkataas akong line. Sa 1 second kay nahimo siyang 50. So if just look at this, yung drawing lang nako, ang imong acceleration is pila kada second. Pila?
5, miss.
Yes. So visually, ang imong increase is 5 meters per second kada second. So, ano siya? Sometimes you don't need to solve, you just draw. So, pila man yung saka? 35, may 40. So, nagka-increase siya og 5 meters per second kada second. So, that is this. Or, nasa'yo pa itong unit. Meters per hour, mali ang given class now sa meters per hour. So, if you know how to visualize it lang jud, bisag makalimot pa ka sa formula, makapangita jud kag paagi. Okay, so 5 meters per second divided by second. Ano? Okay, so 1 second per second interval na isbog siya 5 kilometers per hour. So the acceleration is therefore 5 kilometers per hour second during each interval. Okay, how about this? In 5 seconds of a car moving in a straight line increases its speed from 50 kilometers na himong 65, while a truck goes from rest from 15 kilometers in a straight line, which undergoes greater acceleration. And what is the acceleration of each? So, una, ari sa unang sentence. Ang unang car daw, kay nag-move straight line 50 nahimong 65. Yan na kana tanan nahitabo ra na in pila ka seconds, pila yung time?
5 seconds.
5. So, ang iyang acceleration is, pila man itubo na to? 50 na himong 65. So,
15.
ang atong acceleration is 15. 15 divided by, so imo lang gi-subtract ba ang difference, pila itubo? 65 minus 50, 15. Yeah. Unsa man yung unit ani? Kilometers per hour. Divided by ang, nahitabo na sila tanan sa 5 seconds. So, simplify, that is 15 divided by 5,
3.
3 kilometers per hour per second. Okay. Kaduha. Napoy usa nga car nga gikan siya sa rest. Unsa may velocity ng rest?
0.
Okay, zero ra. Zero nya nag ni hantud mas basta siya ni kalit lang siya ka 15 kilometers per hour. Okay. Kana nahitabo sa 5 seconds lang gyapon. So, pila man sad iyang acceleration. So, ang tubo is, ang initial is this and this. So, VF minus this, 15 gyapon. Oh, 15 gyapon ang change. Divided by 5 lang gyapon na time. So, 15 divided by 5, that is also 3 kilometers per hour per second. So, ang question is, which undergoes greater acceleration?
Pareha ra sila duha,
Yes,
miss.
yes. Parehas ra silang duha. Number-wise, magnitude-wise, same acceleration. What is the acceleration of each vehicle? Moni? 3 and
3
also
kilometer
3.
per hour.
Yes. Per hour per second. Okay, so ana lang siya. So the car and truck both increase their speed by 15 kilometers per hour during the same time interval. So their acceleration is also the same. Ana lang. Okay, so it pays to just make your own visualization of what's going on. Balag dili ta kaayo mag-particular sa mga formula. So, diba? Kay acceleration ng change in velocity divided by time. Ano lang. So, wala na kayo nagkakita din plus minus divide. So, divide ra. Okay. Now, again, concept check. How do you calculate acceleration? Yes, you're right. So, change in velocity divided by time. Ana lang siya. So, napatay term nga gitawag nga average acceleration. So, ang throughout, usa man yung acceleration. So, it only matters with the change in velocity divided by change in time. So, pag delta, mauna dyan na ang final minus initial. So, makabantay mo na siya mga units like F and sub-zero. So, F means final, sub-zero means ang initial or when it started. Okay, divided by T sub F minus T naught or T sub 0. So, where A na naay bar sa ibabaw is the average acceleration, V is velocity, and T is time. The bar over A means average acceleration. The SI units for acceleration is meters per second squared or katong meters per second kada second. So, kung i-times ni mo mura sa second squared. So, mo niya atong SI units. The base units are the meter and the second. Okay, next. Sample problem. Monty the monkey accelerates uniformly from rest. Magbantay mo na yung mga lines like from rest, goes to a stop, na. So, from rest to a velocity of 9 meters per second in a time span of 3 seconds. So, calculate Monty's acceleration. Okay. Can solve sa ninyo niya. Tan ako sa comment section sa inyong answer. Okay, so the velocity initial, inyong isulat, velocity final, ug ang time. Ay lang sa kilid kay hindi na masulat. Okay, so your initial is 0 meters per second kay rest man. Yung final, nahimo siyang 9 meters per second. Unya, 3 seconds na nahitabo. So, to have a formal nga answer, maybe you encounter later mas better mo jud yung pahimot ang atong answer. So acceleration is equal to delta v over delta t is equal to v final, which is 9, minus v initial of 0 divided by total time nga nahitabo ni sila is from 0 to 3, so just 3. So 9 divided by 3 is equal to 3. So ang units kay ang velocity meters per second man niya, ang time kay second. So meters per second divided by second. So also seconds squared. And hitabo man na kay meters per second divide na po nimong second. So it's just the same with meters per second times s over 1 kay gisi reciprocal. 1 over s. So if you can review this with your math nga mga knowledge, mura na nahitabo nga m over s. Ana. Any questions? Shall we proceed? Sinata. Okay. Okay, so far is easy ra siya. So definition of acceleration, because we have these formulas na, it's also when we have quantities available, like we have acceleration, we have the time, we can also solve for the missing quantities. And with using mga math na to nga sa tawag na math acrobatics, pagbali-bali, makakuha ta sa uban nga values. So we can derive them. So for example, kani siya acceleration, average acceleration is equal to change in velocity over time. How about if you want to find the velocity? So what you're going to do, as itong i-rewrite, delta v, okay, so ari lang sa tumoy na part. So v minus v final. Basta walay number diri ha, or kuan ang pasabutan na kay final, or kung vf parehas lang na sa v. Okay, just final velocity. Okay, final. Acceleration is v minus v sub o, or v naught over, ang pag-read sa danang v sub o, or just v naught, like naughty, v naught na, v sub o over time. Then, kung gusto ta makuha ang palitan ng question kinangutana, kung sa yung final velocity. So, i-derive nimo. Ang buhaton nimo is, dapat ang imong equation kanina lang mahabilin. So, what you're going to do is, magbuhat-buhat ka og mga paagi, such as like this. Multiply time on both sides para makancel. So, ang nahitabo is v minus v sub o is equals to t times a, or at. Unya, para mahabilin ni, kani siya, ibali na to sa pikas, right? Paspas ra, or nakagets ra mo sa math?
Okay ra, miss.
Okay ra, no? So, saan kong pen? Okay, so, highlighter na. Okay, so, para mabalhin ni siya, imo na siyang plusan yung counterpart. So, sa inyo ha, kay shortcut man, balhin-balhin. Ang dili shortcut is, plusan nimo siya sa iyang ka-opposite. V sub o, para ma-cancel kay positive and negative, yan na muna, nabalhin na siya diri. 3. So, V sub o plus 80. To rewrite it in a better version, or bali na version, your final velocity is equal to V sub o plus 80. So, we have this na. Kung pangitaan kag final velocity, yan na kay initial, naka-acceleration na time, mo ni ang imong equation gamiton. O sa story, ana, your final velocity is equal to ang imong initial nga velocity plus katong panahon nga, katong velocity sa panahon nga ni-accelerate ka o unsa tong time nga tanan nahitabo. So, just a times t. So, your velocity plus acceleration times time. So, to make sense of formulas, it's better to have stories by yourself. So, mga nakaba nga, ang imong final is equal to unsa ka kapaspasa plus katupod yung acceleration na nahitabo nimo katong time tanan nga nahitabo ang acceleration inana. para mas makahinumdum ka sa mga formula. So, when you try to write, like you write sa mga index cards, mas maayo if imo siyang buhatan og meaning sa imo. So kani nga equation, it's not just one, so naa pa tayo lain na equation. And these are what we call kinematic equations. So these are for situations nga pangitaon ang uban nga mga quantities, like what is the final velocity, how much time did it take, what is the acceleration, and so on. It is derived for you na, and then the derivation is kanang anay uban sayo na uban dili. So I will just give you directly the 4 kinematic equations. In other books, 5. So let us look at this video first of the kinematic equations.
The topic of this video is Introduction to Kinematic Equations. And there's just 2 questions we wish to answer in this video. They are, what are the 4 kinematic equations and what do the symbols in these equations mean? And how do you use these 4 equations to solve physics word problems? Let's get started. Classical mechanics, of which kinematics is a branch of, has the ability to make very precise and detailed predictions.
Sa internet siguro ni nako.
Predictions about the future state of motion of an object. For instance, if we know some information about the current state of motion, say the original position and say the speed and the acceleration, we could predict at some later moment in time the actual position of that object. And this is what the kinematic equations are all about. Let's look at the 4 kinematic equations here. You'll notice that in the diagram, 4 equations are listed, and on the left side of the equation is a variable, and on the right side of the equation are a collection of terms containing variables. Now, one of the most important things that you need to get used to right away is what are the meanings of these variables? What do the symbols mean? So D stands for the displacement of the object, the overall change in position. The acceleration is represented by the symbol A, and the time is represented by the symbol T in these equations. Now you'll notice there's a few V's in these equations. There's a V with a little O after it and a V with a little F after it. These stand for velocities, like V with an O after it stands for the original velocity, and a V with an F after it stands for the final velocity. These are the 4 kinematic equations, and they all assume one thing, that over the course of motion, the acceleration value that you see in these equations is constant. One thing that you should be aware of is that the appearance of these 4 kinematic equations may vary from course to course and teacher to teacher. For instance, one of the first things that you might notice is that the D that you see in my equation stands for displacement. In other courses and other teachers and other sources may represent it by a delta X, where delta X refers to the change in position, just like D represents the change in position. So if you put a delta X into the D spot in the first equation, you would have on the left side X final minus X original.
A person is trying to say is that in different teachers, different books, makita mo ani nga 4 kinematic equations lahi-lahi siya pagkasulat. Ang uban nagamit siya D for distance or for position, and then ang other books pwede siya magamit siya og X. So ani lang siya. So sometimes if mag-search mo by yourself, makita mo line na pagkasulat ani the same ra gyapon sila. Basta ang concept is D stands for the position or total change in position, and so on. So mao ra gyapon na mahitabo ani sa further na part sa video. Here also the D becomes X or delta X because final good siya nga total change in position or the distance. Also this one, delta X, kay meaning final minus initial mani. Basta na delta meaning final minus initial. Mao gyapon sa ikaupat nga equation. Delta T po diha ang uban. So, also take note that kani siyang sa other side kay F og sub F og sub 0, sa pikas kay sub f ug sub I. Para sa naghapon na sa class ha, original equals initial, nya final, ana. So far, inana na siya. And the important part is that you know what these letters mean because it's very useful. So, imo maning tan-aw unsa dayon na equation ang pwede nimo magamit. So, in the next meeting, we'll continue doing this watching this video, and then apply it to practice problems such as ang question siya, kung sa final velocity, kung nana kay distance, nana kay nani. So, sayon radyo ni siya, kung una-una ni mo na, mura na siya dula, nga game ra ba nga, tanaw ni mo asang gamiton ni mga armor or formula, na ita siya ka-simple. Basta, kay balo lang ka sa concept. So, let us stop at this part of the video.